Minister Margaret Johnson with us. So Minister Johnson, thank you for coming to this meeting tonight. You know that there's been great consternation in our community about the recent reductions in hospital services. So I'm going to just summarize for the council and for the public just the most recent developments. And then I have a couple questions for you, and then I'm going to invite all the councillors to ask any questions they might have. And I would hope to do all of this, my summary, my questions, everybody's questions and your answers all in 15 to 20 minutes. So we're all going to try and be as efficient as possible. So I'm just going to summarize what happened on Monday, June 28th at our last council meeting. We were talking about the announcement that our acute care beds were going to be changed to alternate level of care ALC beds beginning the following week. And that was going to last until the end of the summer. We were going to retain our palliative care beds if possible. But then just last Thursday, the announcement came down that our ER was going to be reduced as well. So it's only open now beginning on Friday night. The ER closed at 6 o'clock in the evening and opens again at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's 7 days a week, but it's no longer open in the evening. And this was, although I had said 2 weeks ago to this council that we had ER full steam ahead for the summer, there were some sudden changes in the staffing of nurses at the hospital. And so now we have lost our overnight and evening ER as well. So as we've said many times in council and in other venues, this nursing shortage is part of a worldwide nursing shortage, and it's being felt in Canada and New Brunswick. But we have known, it's no secret, that there has been an intention over decades of various people in the health authority and in the Department of Health in various governments to downgrade or eliminate our hospital. Some people have explicitly stated that, and we feel that the on and off reductions contribute to a downward spiral where healthcare staff are not really sure when they're applying or taking a job at this hospital what the future holds. And we think that instability is a part of our nursing shortage. So for all the changes, the recent changes to work, so that we have appropriate care for our patients and we don't have desperate outcomes for sick and injured patients right now in the next few weeks, we expect expanded ambulance service because there's a lot more distance to go to ERs and transfers between facilities. We need increased capacity in Waterville, probably Grand Falls, possibly in the deck to handle the overflow from our emerge. We need them to be able to take our inpatients. We need improved cooperation and coordination between the hospitals. So at the end of certain hours, when patients are coming and going, things are smooth and there are beds for our people when they need them. And we also want high quality of services for the long-term care patients who are going to be in our hospital, not just languishing in a bed for months on end. We all have stories of people who have done very badly hanging around in a hospital waiting for a nursing home. And we don't want to see that in our building, in our community. We're not going to continue demanding a long-term rural health strategy to provide stable, high-quality healthcare services here, improved recruitment and retention of healthcare providers, and everything else we asked for in our submission in May. So that's my summary. Now I'm dropping things. My two questions, I'm going to ask them together, and I'll let you answer them one at a time. The first one is, can you tell us, Minister Johnson, what is happening right now to ensure that the reductions are putting no one at risk, and that these reductions are to ensure that the reductions will be reversed and adequate services reinstated as soon as possible? We're told these things are temporary, but we're all wondering if they are. So that's my first question. What is happening right now to prevent harm and switch this back? And the second thing is, when is that healthcare plan going to be released? And will it include a commitment to, and the wherewithal and the means to provide stable, appropriate services to the rural New Brunswickers who make up 50% of the population of this province? So I'm going to get you to answer briefly and then answer questions from the rest of my counselors.
Okay, I can do very quickly. The second one, I don't know. I'm not Minister. I met with Minister Shepherd today, And I have not been made privy to when the health plan is going to be made public to council. So that's a quick, it's not a good answer, but that's what I have for you on that one. I don't have that one. I had asked Minister Shepherd if she had a statement for you for this evening. She does not. I met with Horizon Health this afternoon, and Minister Shepherd's take on that is that she feels it is important that Horizon Health takes on the issue, and she needs to. It's kind of like me working with the Liquor Control Board or the Farm Products Board. It's that's their job, is to look at staffing. And I have, in reaching out to Ms. Geldart this afternoon and to, the other two ladies who are Trish Murray and Nicole Tupper. Does that sound right? Talked to them this afternoon as well. And they had talked about the fact that they are quite willing and eager to reach out to you, or have you reach out to them, and would encourage you to work with them, because they would love to be able to go through this process with you and have you be stakeholders in that and giving them input. I'd given Mayor Bell, I had sent you a response to what was being done right now. A&B, with regard to ambulances, is intending to up staff in a unit to assist with coverage in that district during the night shifts. Tobic unit is currently a 12-hour day truck, and the goal is to also have staff that unit at night for 12 hours starting tonight, and that would have been Thursday. Yes, Thursday night, and for the next 3 nights, it's confirmed that they've successfully got the staffing upped, and they are prepared to continue to do that. The URVH emergency department is approximately 30 minutes wait for level 3 CTAS. And for context, between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m., the average of ED registrations at HDSJ over the last year is 8. As always, patients requiring urgent care should proceed to the emergency department, the nearest to them, and 911 calls. I was astounded this afternoon in talking with Horizon to learn that in the last 3 to 4 years, that Hotel Dieu has gone from 28.2 FTEs to 9.5. And I was quite forthright in saying, if they are aware of the erosion of this situation and the fact that staffing numbers have dropped this much, then it behooves them to be looking into why. And I had addressed what Mayor Bell, you and I, the investigation we had launched anonymously in the fall. And of course, there are all sorts of excuses as to why those things are the way they are. And you and I have talked about that off camera as to what the issues might be. And there's 3 sides to every story, as we know. And I haven't been able to get to the bottom line yet. My own personal feeling is that we need to do an audit and get to the bottom of where the issue is. And I thought we were on track with that with our healthcare consultations. Mayor Bell, you're very well aware of my feelings on the emergency room closures and where I stood on this back last January. And to say I'm disappointed is an understatement. I've been assured when I talked to Horizon today, I was saying things like, I can appreciate these girls, and I'm saying girls only because predominantly they are female. They've worked us through COVID. They deserve to have some time off, and they deserve the opportunity to be able to take a break. Horizon countered with the discussion that, in fact, vacations weren't a big portion of this, that there were 2 individuals who were taking sick leave, and 1 individual was seeking employment elsewhere in this situation this time. They're using casuals to cover full-time employment. When I spoke to the idea of giving people full-time employment being an incentive, and rather than keeping them on as casual, I said it's kind of like supply teachers and D contracts. And I was assured that that was not the issue, that full-time positions are being offered, and that new graduates coming out of the system prefer to stay in their own communities, and that the Perth Andover area is just not generating enough people who want to return to their home communities. People want to go to the larger centers. I was also told that ours is called a hard to recruit area, and that there is a $10,000 signing bonus incentive with a 3-year commitment for new graduates. Out of 100 people that were offered those positions, they did have one person accept, and she is currently awaiting her licensure approval, and she will be joining the staff in late summer. What else can I add to that?
Thank you. I'm gonna pause you there because
Good,
you've given a
good.
lot of answers, and I'm gonna invite other counselors to ask
Good.
questions as well, but I appreciate everything that you've said. Sheila, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, question or just kind of a point on it. I've been asked by some people what they're doing to compensate, because it's actually like an extra tax, because the cost of an ambulance to go to obviously to go to an ER at nighttime, you're not going to call your neighbor to be able to take you down across the river. They're going to difference. Is it putting the burden? Is it forcing the burden onto Vitalité because it's shorter to go to Grand Falls than it is to go to Waterville? And then if it's something very serious and requires going to a bigger hospital, it's a shorter distance from Grand Falls to Edmundston than it is to go from Waterville to Fredericton. So therefore, really is pushing it off on Vitalité. And the other question I was asked is, now that these acute care beds have turned to ALC beds, in all honesty, will they return to acute care, or is this just a continuation of that? And we're just going, the palliative beds are now gone, the acute care beds are gone, and all we have is a warehouse to house people until they get to a manor, or until their family does the paperwork in order for them to be on a list for a manor.
Quick answers, because I know Mary Ann's got me on a timeline. The ALC acute care, it is not the intent at this juncture to have those remain that way. It's a question of getting us through to September, when we can hopefully return that to acute care. Cost of ambulance and compensation burden on Vitalité, I don't know, and I will look into that and get back to you, Sheila.
Does another counselor have a question?
Yes, I do.
Jason, please go ahead.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. My question, you kind of addressed it a little bit as you were talking about with the piece that has hit this hospital particularly bad is the retention issue. And I do know that there's been an increased internal pressure in the hospital from Horizon over a number of years, that the nurses feel the pressure that all the time, that it's Horizon's desire to close the hospital, and so there's that increased anxiety level there, and that there are nurses who have retired recently that probably wouldn't have retired had certain higher management issues not been like they were. And I do know that there was an incident a couple of years ago, and following that incident, there was supposed to be a follow-up exit survey, basically, to find out what some of those issues were. I think you kind of hinted at it, perhaps, but I'm just wondering, and it was never done as far as I know. Has Horizon, or does Horizon have a plan to speak to the nurses that are leaving, speak to the nurses that have recently retired, and speak to the nurses that are still there, to find out why the issue for retaining staff that's already there seems to be an
That's a very, and that's, I guess, what I was speaking to in terms of an audit. I think you're exactly right, that we need to find that out, because when Mayor Bell and I were doing some investigation back in the fall, what we were finding were a multitude of issues, and you're right, management was part of it. And my analogy that I gave Horizon this afternoon was, over time, successive governments, not just one or the other, have said there's been a lot of pressure using the hospital as a pawn. The hospital has been used as a pawn in numerous political campaigns, and I just would like that to stop. And I think what I said was, are you going to apply for a job in a store if there's rumor on the street that the store's finances aren't good and they might be closing? Are you going to go to a farm if you think the farmer might go belly up? No, you're not. And so what incentive is there with this constant bickering and using the hospital as a pawn? What incentive is there for people to come when I wouldn't be buying a house if I thought that I wasn't going to have a job for long, right? Which is why I think we really need to dig down into these exit surveys to find out what the heck the problem is, because I think that still waters run deep, and I think the problems are a lot bigger than what people see them as being on the surface.
I'm going to get to you, Sheila. I saw your hand. I'm just going to add there, Minister Johnson, that there are lots of nurses who live in this area who don't work at Hotel Dieu. There are lots of nurses who live here. There are nurses who work across the border. There's nurses who work in Grand Falls and Waterville. There are nurses who fly in, fly out. There's people in different kinds of private practice. There ain't no shortage of nurses living in this community. So there's an awkward unwillingness of many nurses to work in the hospital.
Right, and why is that?
Yeah, so
right,
it does sound like you understand that there's some things going on, but like you said, people are not going to sign up for a job in a hospital where everybody is afraid of what's going to happen next.
Right.
So thank you for mentioning that. And then Sheila, you wanted to make another comment.
I just wanted to point out that it is continuing to happen, that when people apply to work as a nurse at Hotel Dieu, they are, first of all, have to go through a long road to get to Hotel Dieu. They have to go through the zone region 3, then they have to go through Upper Valley, then they have to go. And then I know for a fact that many of them are told, well, we can give you a better position, we give you a full-time job if you will go to Waterville, if you will go to Fredericton. But if you want to stay in there, we can only give you part-time. And I know there are people, because I've talked to them, and some of them have said to me, it's easier. We want to live in Perth Andover. We don't want to travel to move to Fredericton. We don't want to travel there. We'll just go across, because in Presque Isle and Caribou, we can get a job and still live in Perth Andover. And so they will not play the silly game. And they have lost many nurses because of that. And then others choose to go to Vitalité and go north to Grand Falls because the same problem.
Very good point, Sheila. And that's sickening to hear that stuff.
But it's true.
Yeah, exactly. And Marianne and I had people giving us testimonials to the same thing. One of the questions I asked this afternoon, I know I'm going to try and talk fast. I'll pin my husband. So I asked about the situation in the United States, because we've got a huge group of folks on the border who work in either Holton or Presque Isle or Fort Kent or Caribou, whatever. And I said, is there parity between the jobs? And they said the baseline, Horizon admitted, the baseline salary is lower. However, with the exchange rate, it brings it to par. And if the situation is much more, they didn't say this, I said this, if the situation is much more stable and it's a better positive working environment and you're being paid essentially the same money, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that out.
That's right. Thank you. So I'll just ask the counselors again if they have any more questions. Okay, well, we're not happy and we're not sure what we can do, because we cannot produce nurses out of thin air, but we also cannot guarantee that our hospital will be a good place to work for the next 20 years, because we don't get to make that decision as the Village of Perth Andover. It's the Department of Health and Horizon Health who make decisions like that. And that's
Right.
why we want a long-term, stable plan that's reasonable healthcare for everybody, so we know what we're dealing with. We can be part of a solution if we actually knew what we were dealing with and it was a reasonable thing. So thank you for coming. We'll release you. but
Okay,
We'll continue talking.
we're gonna talk again.